Okay, our relatives, all our relations, welcome back to our final segment of International Children's Month, Global Wave of Love, Day of Action, sponsored by We the World and supported by World Unity Week. And I am really, really happy and blessed and honored to be circling up with an old colleague of mine, is how I feel about her, Norie Huddle. And I met Norie through Alan Moore for Musicians and Fine Artists for World Peace over a decade ago. And he
over 2 decades ago.
No, oh my goodness.
Oh yes.
Oh my goodness. We've been on about butterflies, transformation, and this whole arising for a very long time. And Norie's been on it for even longer than I have. So, oh my gosh, Norie, welcome. Where are you? Who are you? Fill us in. What's happening in your world?
Hi, Heidi. I'm in Ecuador. My husband and I bought a semi-abandoned farm about 13 years ago, and we've been turning it into a garden of paradise to be a source of inspiration and a kind of a putting that little note out into the universe. And it's just been amazing. So one of the things that we had no intention of buying land in Ecuador, but what happened was we within 30 seconds of being on this property, we turned and looked at each other with utter astonishment, and we both realized as our eyes met that we were supposed to buy this farm. Something wanted to happen here, and we were the stewards. So we bought the farm. And one of the things that's already happened is that we won the first lawsuit in Ecuador and in the world defending the rights of nature, which is quite astonishing. More recently, we had a woman who came to visit with a couple of friends who had visited us before, and she's one of these people who has special abilities, and she's able to talk with the spirit world.
Nice.
So she asked me if she could go out and talk with the spirits and see if they here on our land and see what they had to say. And I said, sure, I'd love to know what they have to say myself. And she came back, 50 minutes or an hour later, and she just, was like, and I said, what did they tell you? And she said, well, I have to say, I've never been in a place with so many positive spirits. They've come here from all over the earth and all over our solar system and all over our galaxy, but also from other galaxies and other dimensions. And they've all come to help you with the work you're doing. You're one of 12 places on earth that are grounding the transformation of humanity. And most people won't know about your work for 100 or 150 years because of the way you're doing it. And I'd always liked the idea, the leader who, when the job is done, the people say, we did it ourselves. So anyway.
You and me both, Norie. You and me both.
Except that about 2 months later, I was listening to a webinar, and the woman presenting it said, if you're the best kept secret on the planet, you need to rethink what you're doing. The world needs to hear your message.
Yes.
So that led me within 6 months to give a TEDx talk up in Winnipeg, which can be found at one of my websites, which is bestgame.org.
Awesome. Bestgame.org.
That's it. Short and sweet.
Nice. Well, I was introduced to you. The story goes like this. So there's this woman who wrote this book that is amazing. And it's about how all the people on earth are going to come together like a butterfly. And how the imaginal cells, as each person, correct me if I'm wrong, as each person is like an imaginal cell that like kind of sloughs off and then gets reborn. And then as they get reborn, they come together to form this beautiful new collective consciousness that is this metamorphosis that is the butterfly. Now, in your words, tell me what that is.
Okay, well, the book can be a very inexpensive PDF copy of the book can be found at bestgame.org. So it is
Great.
available there. The cool thing about the book is it's under 600 words long, and it was written in just a bout of inspired writing
Okay.
after I've been telling the story for several years. And it goes like this, basically, that the world today is kind of like the caterpillar that's crawling around up and down and up and down, and eating and eating and eating.
Mm,
And
mm,
but one day eating just isn't enough anymore. There's got to be more to life than just
mm-hmm.
crawling around up and down and up and down and eating. So the caterpillar begins to form around itself a chrysalis. And it's called a chrysalis, not a cocoon. The cocoon is what the moth does. It's sort of a similar process, but the butterfly, it's a chrysalis.
Yes.
And inside the chrysalis, the caterpillar now starts to melt down. It begins to break down, much the way society today is breaking down.
Imagine that.
Imagine that.
Yeah.
So inside the caterpillar, there start to appear cells that have never been there before. And those are called imaginal cells. And
Yeah.
these cells are completely different from the caterpillar cells. And they all resonate at the same frequency, and they all are there in little tiny ones here and there, but at first they're separate. And early ones are killed off by the immune system of the caterpillar, because the caterpillar is still alive inside the chrysalis, and the immune system is one of the last things to go. And so when the immune system finally starts to slow down, more and more of these imaginal cells appear. And now they enter a very, very interesting phase where they begin to clump together into little groups, all resonating at the same frequency and all
Mm,
passing information from one to the other there inside the chrysalis.
yeah.
And after a while, these little clumps of imaginal cells begin to cluster together. And pretty soon you got a long string of clumping and clustering imaginal cells there inside the chrysalis. And at some point, the whole thing kind of hooks up in, and it becomes one unit. And that is in my book. It says, "Happy birthday, butterfly." It still doesn't look like a butterfly, but now it's a family that can share the work. And
Yeah.
now an amazing thing happens. The individual imaginal cells begin to change and transform. And each cell I love this part of the book. Each cell begins to do just that very thing it's most drawn to do, and every other cell encourages it to do just that. A great way to organize a butterfly.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why so many of us, are we've begun to what's called differentiate function. We are doing different things. You do music, I do what I do, and other people are doing what they do, and
Yeah.
and it somehow all kind of looks a little chaotic at this point. But more and more, as we find our purpose, our place in the cosmos, then more and more we're kind of hooking up and connecting up with the people who we need to do work with, or play with, or sing with, or dance with, or whatever, do projects with. And so it gets a lot easier as we go along. And so as after a while, the whole butterfly forms. And I happen personally to be trained in systems thinking, so a lot of my work has been around
Yeah.
coming up with projects that can help to leverage this transformation in a very rapid and enjoyable way. So after the butterfly has formed, now it's about ready to come out into the world. Okay. And at this point in my book, it says, "An important secret. Don't help the butterfly at this time. It needs this exercise of beating its wings against the inside of the chrysalis to break out of it. It needs this exercise to grow strong so that it can fly." And if you've ever seen a butterfly that's been helped out of the chrysalis, a lot of the time it's quite deformed and cannot fly.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things to think about is, for a lot of us, it's been
Mm-hmm.
really pretty difficult recently.
Mm-hmm.
But that's because we're in this stage, where we're all going through this coming out of the chrysalis. I see this lockdown that we've been in for this pandemic, faux-demic, or whatever it is. I see this as really kind of like being in a chrysalis. And in fact, I was thinking recently, I told my husband, when I was a little kid, if we did something, if my brother and I got in a fight, or the kids were being unruly, there were 5 of us, and my parents would say, go to your room and go to your rooms and meditate.
Oh,
And I kind of think we've all been sent to our rooms to meditate.
that sounds about right.
Yeah, because we're really off track.
Yeah,
And
we
so,
have been.
yeah, and so this is real opportunity, and I think we're starting to use it pretty darn well. It's a real opportunity for us to have these conversations about what kind of people do we want to become, what kind of earth do we want to create, how can we do this, how can I support you, how can you support me, and what are the new systems that we need that will help us create what I call a global butterfly civilization. So that, in a nutshell, is the story of the metamorphosis. And unlike the caterpillar that's just eating and eating and eating and crawling around up and down, the butterfly is this beautiful airborne creature that is flying around, and it's pollinating the flowers so that the trees and bushes can bloom and bear fruit for birds and animals and people to eat. So it's really a very, very different civilization that we can create together. And one of the things that I've realized quite recently, Heidi, in the last, say, 3-4 years, is that I think that the when the butterfly is working its way outside of the chrysalis, okay, and it's beating its wings inside,
Right.
pushing up against the inside,
Mm-hmm.
what I think it's doing is beginning to push liquid through its wings.
Oh.
And that gives the wings a structure so that it can fly. And I think that might be the new money system.
Oh.
Yeah. So that's one of the things that I've been working on, is a whole way of playing the money game, because in all the revolutions of the past, the major revolutions of the past, each of the revolutionary forces created their own money system. The Americans created continental dollars, and the French created something called assignats, and so on. And so where I think we are now, we've got a whole new, there are a lot of money experiments going on around the world right now.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
All sorts of local currencies and ones that are really not local, and the cryptocurrencies.
Right.
So
I like the imagery, though. I feel like people can lock into it when they get an image, It's like that's how we train people in theater and in social emotional learning, right? Like if they want to memorize something, it's like you give them an image to lock onto to embody the practice, right? To embody whatever it is. So let's meditate on that for just a second. Can we just meditate on that for a second? Let's just invite our people here to just imagine the butterfly and the fluid getting pumped. What part do you think the fluid comes from, Norie? You think it comes from inside the body and then it goes down and out through the wings? Where do you think it is? It's from the inside out, right?
I would think so, that there are veins in the wings. Okay, there are veins in the wings, and I don't know exactly how that part of the process works. I'm not even sure I'm accurate on that.
I know, but it sounds,
it feels right.
It does. It sounds like something we should look at. So just imagine, let's just invite ourselves and each other to imagine. Imagine you're a butterfly, and inside of you is this beautiful glowing heart. And that glowing heart produces water. And the water that's flowing around in the body turns into this beautiful liquid gold that goes out into our wings, that fills up our bank accounts and our and what else? Where else do we put money? Our PayPal accounts and our Stripe accounts, and flows into the wings as whatever it is that we've been called to create, that helps create the new world. see that all fill up with nice golden light. And, everything comes from the inside out. So let's just imagine for a minute that flow, moving out into the world. I've been asking Spirit, what am I missing? What do I need to see here that I haven't seen yet? What needs to happen in order for the balance to happen for people monetarily, right? Because it's definitely imbalanced right now. So it's like, what do I need to know or hear? And this is the first thing I've heard all day in regards to that question. So, and
Well, I really do think that we are in, look at the rewards and incentives that we have in the caterpillar society of today. People are being rewarded for overconsumption. For
yeah,
example, $5.99 for all you can eat. What is that reward? Oink. I mean, and it just goes on and on. Everywhere you look around, look at how the rewards and incentives are structured. And so instead of that, how would we design a civilization with rewards and incentives that encourage us and support us to collaborate with each other, to clean up our messes with each other? For example, bad relationships where people have misunderstood each other, perhaps. I mean, I have done so much work in each of these designs, okay? And what I've been waiting for is the call. And I feel as if the call has come. And so I've been in the process now, for example, one of the things I'm now working with is I'm working on is something called the $1 trillion lottery for world peace.
ooh, I like it.
Exactly. And that's actually an idea. It was it was given to me in an amazing, I won't tell the story here because I don't think we have time, but it was an amazing thing that happened where I asked God to give me one really good idea that could help humanity realize we'd forever turned our backs on war and that we were now all working together to create a world of peace, health, prosperity, and justice that works for everyone. And please make it be a wonderful idea that attracts wonderful people to work with, all the resources we need. And very important, please make it be a lot of fun.
Yeah, sure. Exactly. Joy.
And then at that moment, I said, thank you. And thank you kind of closes the circuit. And at that point, I had a voice in my head say the words, the $1 billion lottery for world peace. And I said, ooh, what's that? And at that point, I started getting the download. Okay. It took about half an hour. And the very last thing I asked was, I said, this is God, thank you. This is an amazing idea. Thank you so much. This is incredible because it truly is very different. I don't like lotteries, frankly. Okay. Just to be very clear on that.
Yeah.
It's totally different from any lottery that has ever been created. And then I said, what is there anything else that I need to know? And I got the movie. And the movie tells the story of how we did it, of how we created peace on earth. And I got kind of a complete download about how that could be done. Within 30 seconds, Heidi, the phone rings.
Oh, perfect.
And it's a friend of mine whom I hadn't spoken with for a couple of months. Now, this is a guy who has the Midas touch for money. Everything he touched, he made money on. And at that, and he said, what have you been doing the last half hour? You've been really on my mind.
Oh, no kidding.
Right. And I said, oh, you know me, John, the usual. What have you been up to? Because I like to listen to people to see first if they can have the bandwidth so that I can speak into whatever I feel is appropriate for that person,
Yeah.
And John said, well, I've decided to sell my business in Canada. Well, his business in Canada was to produce the machines you find in post offices where you put your money in and you get postage stamps out.
Okay.
And his company was the sole provider of those machines for the US and Canada.
Oh,
So
no
I said,
kidding.
all right. I said, I thought that was a good business. Why are you selling it? Well, he says, yeah, it is a good business, about $6 million a year profit. But I've gotten my engineer to upgrade the machines to dispense lottery tickets.
Oh, good heavens.
Exactly. That was kind of my response.
Oh my gosh. You can't make this stuff up, right?
No,
Like when
no,
it happens, you can't even make it up. It's just
right.
too perfect.
Well,
Did you tell him? Did you tell him? Did you
well,
get it together or what?
well, what my antennae quivered.
Of course they did. I wouldn't have been able to contain myself. Good for you. I would have just been like, oh my God, you won't believe what just happened.
So what I said was, that's very interesting, John. Tell me more.
Oh, good for you. See, that's where the wisdom comes in, man. I'll tell you, Norie.
So then John says, yeah, he says, I have a meeting tomorrow afternoon over and he named a place, with a man who's known as Mr. World Lottery. And I said, John, that's very interesting. Now let me tell you what I was doing the last half hour. And I told him, and he was off the charts. He was
Oh,
he
good.
was so excited. He said,
That's
that's an
good.
amazing idea. That will work. So I have the stamp of approval from a guy who,
With the Midas touch.
yeah, and
Good.
and just recently here,
Yeah.
down here in Ecuador, a guy a wonderful young man I was in a debate with about 5G, and I was the only person on the panel against 5G,
Uh-huh.
about the health effects. And
Uh-huh.
he was an engineer for, a major company that was rolling 5G out.
Of
Okay.
course.
Well,
Okay.
and he came up to me afterwards, and he basically said, um, I've never heard about any of this, of the things that you were saying. This, of course, is in Spanish. And he said, but I'd like to stay in touch with you. So we stayed in touch a couple of times a week. And about 2 months later, he watched my TEDx talk, and he decided to quit his job.
Oh my goodness.
So
Norie.
and he's now working with me. Okay.
Oh, there you go.
And he just introduced me about a week ago to these two wonderful guys who also used to work for the same company that he used to work for. And they they wrote me this wonderful email about I sent them all the information, and so they want to help me make it happen. So
Awesome.
I think that we're getting close to some major pieces kind of coming together.
God
So
bless you. Spirit continue to bless you, because that was my question today. It's like so many people that we spoke with today, just high caliber, peace loving, rainbow warrior, fabulous beings, giving everything they have. And they struggled to pay their live stream bill. They had no donations for World Peace and Prayer Day. So to everyone out there, head on over to donation pages and start sharing. There is hope. I know. I mean, it's like, and we run a not-for-profit. I don't even think about it, So it's just like, because we just pay for it. We're so used to just paying for it to make it work, So
Heidi, you probably don't know this about me, but I lived for over 40 years on $1,000 a year or less. And I
did you write a book?
I wrote, during that time, I wrote, I think 5 books.
Good. Did you write one about how you did it?
No, but I did write an article. But and it would probably make a good book too, but not just about that. But the reason I did it was when I was 13, I had a lucid dream that was a life changer. Okay.
Yep.
And out of that, I started reading the great books. And then I moved to the great books of religion. I was trying to find purpose and meaning.
Right. Sure.
And one of the books I read was called Babbitt by Sinclair Lewis.
Yes. Yes.
And Babbitt was a guy who, as a young man, had these dreams of doing something wonderful, that he wanted to really make a difference in the world. And then he went to college, and he got married. He's had a couple of kids. He got a job as an insurance salesman. and he began to eat too much and drink too much and fall asleep at night watching TV on the couch, and the dreams gradually receded. And I
Sure.
mean, I was 14 at this point, okay, and my dreams were so strong. And I just remember kneeling down on the floor of my bedroom and tears pouring down my cheeks, looking at my hands through the tears and saying, someday these hands will do something wonderful for humanity. And then I made a covenant with God. And I said, please, dear God, only give me, I saw that one day I would be very wealthy, but I said, please don't give me a lot of money until my consciousness is clean and until I can find a way that everyone can have clean consciousness and a lot of money too.
Aw, Norie, God bless you.
That really that set it in motion.
Yes.
And then this past fall, it was actually the 26th of September, I got it that it was time now to attract in the wealth. And
I love it.
I remember writing out by hand a new covenant with God. And so I really feel as if things are starting to shift. But you see, my commitment, my covenant is to do this together with everyone. So,
yes.
Because we really are all one. We really truly are. We're infinite, eternal, spiritual beings. We're one with the infinite, eternal, pure love.
Yes, that's what I was going to say. You got it.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
And so the trick now, well, one of the stories I love is the story of heaven and hell that's told among the South Pacific Islanders. Have you heard that?
No, I haven't. No.
Well, it basically, hell is you walk into this room and it's a huge room and there are tables around the room and people are sitting around the tables and the tables are piled high with delicious food, but everyone's starving to death because the chopsticks are 5 feet long and they can't pick up the food and put it in their mouths. Heaven is exactly the same scene, but the people have learned to feed each other across the table.
Oh, yeah, there was a video that we shared in 2015 for Earth about feeding everyone, and it was based off of that story, what you just said, the video that we shared. They were starving and they were fighting, knocking people's things over, getting to the pot in the middle, and then they finally come to realize that if they took that long stick and fed the person across the way, then the other person could feed them too. Yeah. So someone picked that up and made a video out of it. I think it was the Catholic Church, actually. They were trying to end poverty. They were trying to end world hunger. They had a world hunger ending campaign that happened in 2015. And they made this video, and that's exactly what they based it off of. So I am totally in on this. If you want some help, I will totally help you. I was literally tears streaming down my face the night before last over the hardship of the people that I love so much. And it is only to do with money. For the most part, it's only to do with money. They are doing everything they can, clearing shadow work, doing the business, working, taking action, doing everything they can to make it work. And I asked God, I said, come on now. What's the answer? Let's go. I'm ready. So
here's the key as I understand it. And, mine is still a work in progress because I want to bring everyone with me.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We all need to feed each other across the table. Here's the key. We have forgotten how powerful we are as human beings and how powerful our thoughts and our emotions are when they're in combination.
Yeah.
And so many people walk around, and we've been programmed this way largely by society, walk around and we are looking at the negative of things.
Yes, I agree. Yeah.
And so and we feel ourselves as victims. Okay. Yeah. So instead of that, when you find yourself thinking a negative thought or a victim thought, take a deep breath and go cancel, 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 and feel happy that you've caught yourself. Okay. Yeah. And then rephrase it into a positive statement. So,
Mhm.
wouldn't it be wonderful if, or what would it take for me to generate $100,000 by the end of this year,
Yep.
or $200,000,
Yep.
and make it playful, because the universe really seems to be a very playful place as far as I can figure out.
Yes. Yep.
And the more we are, remember, okay, and this is where it links into children, is
Mhm.
Christ said, be like little children.
Mhm.
Okay. And so I think that and whenever you see someone who's super wealthy, don't go, oh, that so and so, he must have gotten his money illegally and he's hurting people and so forth. Rather than that, celebrate that, okay, wow, he's really showing me that it's possible to do things, and I don't choose to do it that way, but I choose to be wealthy too, and hopefully that guy will also change his consciousness and start to realize that it's more than just about money. It's
Mhm.
about how you use that money, and how
Yes.
and what you're contributing to the world.
Yes.
So, I think that we're on a great big wake up call for all of us, and that
Yes. Yep.
it's really a whole new ball game that's shaping up out there. And part of the whole new ball game is a whole new money system. I hope
Right.
people
Yeah.
I hope people can watch my TEDx talk. I really do, because I lay out in that a whole part of a strategy for how we can achieve peace, health, prosperity, and justice universally on earth by the year 2030.
Nice. Well, we love it. We'll showcase it. I'll get it up onto the platform for International Children's Month, your talk.
Right.
Where, when they go to, it's YouTube, yeah? And they do TEDx Norie Huddle. Is that how they find it?
I recommend they go to bestgame.org,
Bestgame.org.
because there are a lot of other things there,
Yeah, I
resources
love you. Go
for
to
that.
bestgame.org. Norie's fantastic. She's been fantastic since the day I met her and way before that. I love her. She's great. Yeah, it's amazing too, like the power in calling a spade when a spade needs to be called a spade also. You know what I mean? Like when you get to that place where transformation has to happen, you get to that point, the butterfly gets to the caterpillar gets to that point inside of the chrysalis where the spade is the spade and there's nothing left. Do you know what I mean? Like it has to reorganize or it is nothing. And so, I used to do this light working thing where I would never admit anything was wrong. But there comes a point in our life when we have to say, this is atrocious. It shouldn't be happening. I believe we're the eyes, the heart, the hands, and the feet for God. And so
Yeah.
the only way that God knows what's really going on here is when we are being it, right? In the present power of everything that we are, when we are just being it, and it's like, it's not okay for people to be as mean as they are to each other. It's not okay for them to destroy the earth. There are things that are non-negotiable and nothing anybody says can make it right. And when you stand in that place where you're like, that's the spade. It's not a fork, it's not a spoon, and it's not a loaf of bread. Okay, it's a spade. And that's where I find is the pinpoint through the eye of the needle where the greatest transformation happens in an instant. And so
here's another story that I tell I have an Amazon Kindle book called Return to the Garden.
yes.
Yeah, and one of the stories I tell in that is about the seed crystal. A seed crystal is the tiniest form of a crystalline structure that exists.
Nice.
And when you take a seed crystal and you drop it into a super saturated solution that's pumped full of chemicals, everything in that solution crystallizes out around the seed crystal, because it has all the information it needs for where all these chemicals need to go to form new more and more and more of the crystal. I see today's dissatisfaction and unhappiness and all the problems in society as that supersaturated solution.
Yes. Yeah. Agreed.
All the energy that's being poured into the dissatisfaction and unhappiness, once we have a seed crystal that we plunk out into the society, then people will recognize it and they'll say, oh, that I want to play that game. That looks like a lot more fun.
Yeah.
So then all of a sudden people start to find their place, because right now we're still fairly disorganized. I mean,
Yeah.
we've got the clumps, we've got the clustering going on, but we still haven't found that that there is still something that is wanting to be a wave of good news that passes through the system. And I say this, that I'd say that we're all of us here, as the Hopi said, we're the Hopi elders said, we are the ones we've been waiting for.
Yes.
And
Yep.
so you do what you do. I totally support you in that. And
Thank
I'll
you.
do what I do.
Yeah.
And we just
And I totally support you in that.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah.
And that's just the way it works. And
Yeah.
it works when we do that.
Yes, it sure does. It sure
Yeah.
does. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for your being on this planet and for the work you've put in and the seed crystals you've planted, because I know you have, and I know you are. And I just want to thank you for, holding your frequency here, because it takes a lot to hold the frequency here for love, care, and respect, for peace, for transformation, for metamorphosis. And of course, your land is filled with all kinds of beautiful allies. I mean, you're talking about organizing like out of the chrysalis of the butterfly as a planetary way of being, like, own it. Beautiful, like, yes, hallelujah, here we grow, let's do this thing. And it'll be inspirational for the children to hear you talk, because they already know how to unite. They're very good at it. They're very, very good at looking past judgmental factors and just becoming a group of people who are working on something together. I see them do it all the time. It's amazing.
In my TEDx talk, one of the things I said is that the way I have described things in the TEDx talk, I have used language that even very little children can understand, because
Perfect.
I remember back to the day I was born.
Yeah, but we talked about this. Yeah. That's right. Me too. Before I was born.
Mm-hmm. Well, I have one in utero memory, but the thing is that what I remember is that I felt I'd come here to do something, and I had no idea what it was. And I didn't, at 2.5, I walked into my father and I asked him, I'd been studying him for a couple of months to figure if I could have this conversation, because it was so important to me. I said, Papa, where does it end? And my father kind of looked at me and he said, what do you mean, honey? And I said, where does it end? And I pointed out in all directions, and he said, that's a very good question, honey. Nobody knows. Maybe it doesn't. And I said, I thought so. Then why am I here? Because if it's infinite and I can be anywhere, then why am I here? Right. And he looked at me and he said, that's also a very good question, honey. I don't know the answer to that. You're going to have to figure that out yourself. And your mother and I and a lot of other people can help you, but you're going to have to figure that out yourself. And it may take you most of your life to do so. And I said, oh, okay, walked off. Well, I'm turning 76 in less than a month. Okay.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. And I have to say, I think I'm beginning to figure out why I'm here. Okay. And it's to play with wonderful people like you and all the wonderful people out there. And for the children, what I said in my TEDx talk is, when the little ones figure out that we're playing a really fun game and that they're equal players with us, right, they will bring such energy and life to this game that we will take a huge quantum leap. So I truly believe that children have an enormous contribution to make. And hey, I want to help them make it. This is
yay! Well, we're doing it for 8 years. We've been lifting and going, you can do this. Yes. And they didn't even know we were doing it. It was just like, let's go. We've got you. And that's been my thing for 8 years, along with the music, just like, okay, here, let's go. Because we know they have so much to offer, and breaking down the 200, 300, however many hundreds of years of neglect and and not understanding what we have in our children, like how they should be helping lead the way, not be told to be quiet or sit over there or just watch and learn or whatever. Yeah. And so we give them these empowerment opportunities. So I'll work you into the platform, Norie. It's the miracle this year. Every year we get a theme. Spirit gives me a theme every year. And this is the most etheric of them all. It's the miracle, crystal clear vision 2020. And I'll tell you what, we've never seen a year like this before. And just so you can see the propheticness of it, 2018 end of the year, sitting down with Spirit to write the platform. It was 2019 International Children Love, taking it to the streets. And you saw what happened. I saw a video that I made yesterday or the day before that I forgot I made. And I was talking to people about what does love in action look like? What does it sound like? And what does it do? And this was before the Children's Revolution last year. Greta was our lone little girl with her sign, and I guess our energies must have just picked each other up in the universe. And that was all it took for a couple of people to care about something at the same point in time to make it go all over.
What I feel pretty strongly about is that we need to take that energy and make sure that it's a really clean expression of what we want to create, rather than people being bad and wrong for having created what has been created.
Never.
And so I think that that's the challenge, is for us to find.
Oh, I see. Like as a society, as like a global society. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To start focusing on what kind of people do we want to become, and what kind of work do we want to create? Because right now I see us at a sort of a fork in the road. Mm-hmm. And one road is sort of a technocratic dystopia where people and machines are merged together, and we lose our creative thing because we're being sort of controlled and manipulated and surveilled, and our data is being sucked off to make great profit for others.
Yeah.
The other route, which is much more attractive and interesting, is we remember who we are, that we're part of the fabric of life, that we're part of this infinite, eternal, creative force, and we are creative beings, and we have been given this incredibly beautiful earth, and where it's been destroyed up until, it's still being destroyed very rapidly. We have the capacity to come together and to regenerate the earth and to heal ourselves and the earth. And so that's really the challenge that I see that we face. And we need to be pretty smart cookies in how we do this.
Yes.
In order to make this work.
Yep.
So that's why I say peace, health, prosperity, and justice universally on earth by the year 2030. And we can do it. I really believe.
Oh, yes, we can. Yeah. Oh, yes, we can.
But it's going to take a lot of us showing up. I think it's about, what is it? You need about 3% of the people to get it and to start, really living it. And then that becomes contagious. It's much more interesting it's a contagious, positive virus.
Yeah, absolutely. I keep feeling called to show you something, and not to grandstand you, because we're going to put all the links for your books in, and if I can get my hands on all the covers and whatnot, I'll put them everywhere. But this is what Spirit has me doing, is child of the heart. So how do we teach self-love in education? Lovely, and so, the guide I got was show people the pathway back to their heart, right? So that they can find themselves again. So, and that, social emotional learning is really beginning to take off, and teaching people how to love themselves is really beginning to take off. Once they find that power inside of themselves, it's going to be unstoppable. And they are finding the power inside of themselves. So it is unstoppable. So I absolutely believe in your 2030, in our 2030, I'll do it with you, 2030.
Yeah, well, one of the things to remember is that transformation, it's like if you think about a pond that it has water lilies on it.
Yep.
And let's just say it takes 30 days for the pond to totally fill up with water lilies.
Okay.
The day before that 30 days is up, the 29th day, it's half full.
Right. I see what you're saying.
What we have to remember is that transformation is not linear. It
Right.
happens all at once. It's that seed crystal being dropped into a solution. And so if each person were to turn around and each day talk to one new person, and then each of them talk to one new person.
Yeah, it's fun.
We could do this very, very quickly.
It's fun to do it that way too. Yeah.
So yeah.
Bestgame.org.
That's it.
All right. We got you, Norie. We got you.
Big hug and much, much love, Heidi.
Oh my goodness. It's been a blessing. Thank you. I learned a lot. I feel rejuvenated actually after my big long day. So thank you so much for that also. What a gift. You're a gift.
Oh,
thank you.
Blessings.
All right, everyone. You have been with Norie Huddle of bestgame.org. And she's a great author and a wonderful transformation humanity person. And I can't describe enough about her. So go check out bestgame.org. And we have been celebrating International Children's Month. And you can go check out 8 years of free platforms on there too. And we're going to put Norie in there. We're going to weave her into the story of how the children's and youth future became something that was a good thing, a right thing, a love, care, and respect thing. And you can go visit there at internationalchildrensmonth.com/2020 is where the guide is. internationalchildrensmonth.com/2020. We are becoming internationalchildren.world after June to fully allow people to understand that June, yes, is our month, but we have a whole year-long thematic platform that runs every year. This is our 8th year. And I'm excited to see how we grow and flow out into the future, especially after my last conversation here. So much love, care, and respect to all of you beautiful beings of water on this beautiful water planet. And wow, amazing. We love you, and we will see you again. World Unity Week.